Hey guys, some gamer dude here. So this past week, Alternate Souls was put back on Kickstarter. This time by Will Studios, so IG and Jeff, as they split from Japanime Games shortly after the first one failed. Currently standing, they have 3.5 million yen of a necessary 5 million yen to produce. This is a significant amount less than last time, and they still have 16 days. It's about $19,000 Australian. I think it might be possible. Might. They only have 89 backers as it stands, so I think expecting maybe another 50, I think it comes out to, isn't unreasonable. Especially when you consider the Forcible community is somewhere around the 2,000-3,000 mark. But I want to talk about some positives, some changes. I want to talk about some things the community's been talking about, and I want to talk about some things that haven't been addressed and are worth discussing because they hold it back. So, first positive I want to talk about is because it's something I've been planning for my own work for quite some time. There's a demo available. I don't know if this was in the first Kickstarter, I really didn't take notice or don't remember, but you can download a demo to print out and try the game out. Considering the cost involved in this game and the risk of a Kickstarter, I think being able to try to see if you even like it before you fund it is a positive. And if you are thinking about it, I recommend doing it right now and then commit if you wish to, however much you want to and can. But yes, I think demos of any game is a good thing. I think all games should have a digital or printable demo. Probably printable because it's a lot more cost effective for the publisher, especially if you're a small company like they are. It's much more cost effective for them to, say, print this rather than you expecting them to produce an app, because app production costs money. Not all companies are Bandai with that really good Digimon one. So, next up, they've taken on a lot of the criticism about the boxes. A lot of people were really and rightfully irate about the idea of getting duplicates with $8 booster packs. Now the boxes have one of each character as a set thing. So you buy a box, you get one of each, or you can just buy a few boosters and just take your chances. It's a compromise between a TCG and an expandable game, which I think is largely fine, except for one thing we'll get to, and I think you can tell what it might be. Next up, a friend of mine brought this up with them, and I'm glad it's changed. Apparently a few of the cards had the same art on different cards. Now, this is very, very different to one card having multiple artworks. It's the two individual cards having the same artwork. This has been addressed. Glad they fixed it. Another thing regarding art I need to address is that I was wrong about the nature of the book. I was informed that it was a floppy comic book, and my understanding of that meant a stapled magazine type deal. No, it's a properly bound trade paperback. Now, I think it's still very expensive for what it is, but at the same time, it would have a very limited print run, which means it would have to be expensive because the less you produce of things, especially paper things, the more you have to pay. The money to produce books and cards and etc. goes down dramatically the more you produce of it. It's Rudy talked about this quite recently, I believe. Next up, I want to talk about something the community's been discussing, or at least I've heard it discussed, and I'm like, what are you on about? The bums of the standees. So, the standees have nothing on the back of them. They're just blank, clear acrylic plastic. That's expected. This artwork never had backsides. They never had any reason to produce it. And it's just excess cost if they wanted to. Cost that I don't think they can even fund. I think it's unreasonable to expect it. I do understand why it's wanted, because you'll be able to see who your character is from the backside. But I just think it's unreasonable. As someone who's going to be working with a very limited amount of funds, it's unreasonable, guys. It really is. So let's talk about what I think is the elephant in the room. The standees. The standees are still here. I don't think they should be. I know why they're here. I don't agree with it. The standees are why this game is so ridiculously expensive. It is $30 American for a starter deck, $8 for a booster pack, and $200 American for a booster box. $200 American for a booster box. Alright. You're probably going to get a discount at your shop if this goes into full retail production and you get your buy box discount, but it's still going to be a decent chunk of change. More than I think is reasonable. Now, again, this is because of the standees, because they're acrylic. I looked that up, I am right calling it plastic. It is a type of plastic. I just don't think it should have used them. I think someone should have told them straight up, like I did, use a different material. You can produce really nice looking things approximately to what you're trying to go for much less money. I suggested Pogs last time, and I'm really enamored with that idea. I want to produce a game that uses Pogs. I love that concept. But not as Pogs, just as game pieces. I love it. I love that idea. Patent pending, guys. You can't steal. Do not steal. But I think there's also another option. I believe I did mention this, but I bought a board game recently. Well, my family did. And it's pretty much what I think Alternate Souls should have been, and I believe I suggested it last time. Some board games, they have little plastic discuses with stand pieces on top that you can slot cardboard into. Now, we bought the Shadowlands Bluey game because Bluey is awesome. It's a good show. I recommend trying it out, even though it's for little kids. It's really well written and wholesome. It's about a blue healer family in a fantasy dog version of Brisbane, which is in Queensland, Australia. So, that game uses really firm cardboard like the Dragon Ball Z High-Techs as the game pieces, and just they're laminated so they're nice and durable, and they just slot into the cardboard and you just move them around. I've got a Big Bang Theory trivia game that does the exact same thing with pictures of the cast. They're nice and durable, they're nice and laminated. They really could have easily produced this instead of what they did for less money and just put them in the booster packs. And probably got the boosters down to, I reckon, 5, because it's not an unusual material. It's just like, we want thicker cards. And the publisher's like, okay, well, this is probably going to be the cost. Remember Dragon Ball, the high-techs being thicker cards did not incur any extra costs. So they might have been able to even get the boosters down to $4, the standard. The problem with the $8 booster packets is that it excludes a lot of people from the game. They're not going to be able to afford it. I'm all about economic inclusion. I believe that people shouldn't be excluded from things because it's made ridiculously expensive. I think there should be options. I don't think you should not cater to whales. I just think that everyone should be catered to. This is strictly for very wealthy people, and it's not going to hit the general market. I've read a comment before, and I think it's funny, but it's somewhat true. The TCGs are art collecting for poor people, because wealthy people do not play them. They have better things to invest their time and money into. So, and I agree with that. I think that TCGs need to hit that more lower bar. I have said it before. I believe TCGs are like gacha games. I believe the first hit needs to be affordable and cheap. And it's over time you're really draining them of funds. It's like a steady stream instead of taking a bite out of people. Yes, I'm talking about this in predatory terms. Please excuse me. And that's the problem with this game. It's expecting huge chunks out the gate. See, for board games, that's fine because it's all in one package, or the expansions aren't so frequent as they're likely going to be with something like this. This is just going to be out of the realms of most people. that is probably what's going to limit their ability to hit their goal. That's probably what's going to stop this from being produced if it doesn't get produced. Even if it gets produced, this is going to limit its growth exponentially. It's going to limit its growth to such a ridiculous level, I don't even think it's worth their time producing it. And I really do wish I'd shared my initial reaction video to Alternate Souls, only because I think I could have influenced this game to be more cost effective and more reasonable, and I think that's what it needs. Maybe I'm tooting my own horn here, but that is what I honestly believe. I believe this Acrylic Standees are a mistake. I think they limit its growth potential and its audience. The final thing I want to talk about today is something that's been discussed a lot with my friend and I, who's more invested in this emotionally than myself, is that he really doesn't like the roster. Not because characters are being shown off that he doesn't like or it's skipping over characters he likes, but because of the distinction between J-Ruler and Linker. Certain characters that either of us want to play as are only linkers, and that makes them feel less important. We want to have that character as a J-Ruler. Now, I don't know if they'll go back and redo the characters that are only linkers now and make them J-Rulers later, but I think they probably, instead of this, should have used some system to designate a specific character cards a J-Ruler, and by default everything else becomes a linker. I think you should have had that customization possibility. I've said that for a while. I said that when he was first rather upset that I think it was Charlotte couldn't be a J-Ruler. I noticed Valentina couldn't recently. I noticed that I think Dark Alice isn't. I've got the demo here that has on it. Pretty sure she's just... I think it's if they don't have the character cards, they're not a ruler. So there's that. So yeah, I can't play as Alice. So, and out of the characters in the demo, her and Sylvia, Astima, I think it's pronounced, and Felt Gold are the ones I would want to play as. I mean, I can use them, but it's not really the same as playing as them. And I think that's going to turn some people off. It already has. Anyway, that's all I really have to say on the matter. I do hope that they reach their goals. I think the actual game itself looks fairly decent. I think that if they've improved it from what's been said about it, which I believe they might have, it's probably a fine game. It's apparently based on chess, which I, in retrospect, should have picked up. But, yeah, it's to the cost and the way the J-Roll thing's been done is a bit alienating, especially the cost. The cost, personally speaking, I won't touch it because of the cost. I know other people that would have been interested in it won't touch it because of the cost. I think this needed to be drilled into them that, yeah, that acrylic choice really, really limited them. I get why they wouldn't do it. It's spectacle, it's pretty, but it's not practical. And I do believe in situations like this where you're relying on other people to come fund you, understanding that other people are your investors and they're going to want to see certain things happen before they invest is very important. Anyway, this has been Some Gamer Dude, and thanks for watching.